NASA, mankind is about to discover extraterrestrial life. This was stated by the spokesman of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration during one of the last hearings of the Committee for Science.
A few years ago in 2007, the hacktivist group known as Anonymous and one of its members uploaded a 12.5-minute video explaining that not only did NASA find proof of alien life, but that they were close to sharing those findings with the world. While we have yet to see any kind of announcement from NASA that would suggest this, the video did cover quite a few things that may or may not be signs that could potentially point to the proof of extraterrestrial beings. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have exoplanets. One of the first things spoken about in the 12-minute-long Anonymous video is that around 25 years ago, we didn't know that planets existed outside of our solar system. While that seems hard to believe, that is actually basically true, keeping in mind that this video was released in 2017. The first exoplanets, which are what planets outside of our solar system are called, were discovered in 1992, which is super recently. The video then goes on to explain that today we have found over 3,400 exoplanets that orbit other suns. This may seem redundant or unimportant, but this is a really important part of our search for alien life. With the vastness of space, there are so many places that need to be searched, so we have to find some place to start, and these planets are the perfect place. It is entirely possible that alien life may thrive off of entirely different things than life as we know it. The things we need to survive might be detrimental to alien life, but how are we supposed to know that when we don't know any aliens? This is why we started our search by looking for places with conditions similar to Earth, which we now call habitable planets. Part of a habitable planet's requirements is that they are orbiting a star, but that they aren't too close or too far from it like we are with the sun. So what the video is trying to get across is that while 25 years ago we didn't know any, we now know of thousands of planets that might be holding some kind of alien life. While we haven't found the proof yet, we at least have a pretty stellar starting point. In our number 9 spot today we have Dr. Brian O'Leary. One thing Anonymous mentioned in the video was an apparent quote from Dr. Brian O'Leary, who's a former NASA astronaut and Princeton physics professor. The video stated that he said that there is abundant evidence that we are being contacted, that civilizations have been monitoring us for a very long time, and that their appearance is bizarre from any type of traditional materialistic Western point of view, and that these visitors use the technologies of consciousness, they use droids, they use co-rotating magnetic disks for their propulsion systems, which seems to be a common denominator of the UFO phenomenon. I obviously have no idea how I could possibly substantiate these claims, but they certainly are interesting regardless of what you personally believe. This could of course just be nonsense in order to stir up the masses, but it could also be someone who's finally telling us the truth, but we're all just too skeptical at this point to believe it. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of what Dr. O'Leary said. Do you think it's a hunk of baloney, or do you think that he just might be telling the truth? In our number 8 spot today we have the FBI documents. Around the halfway mark, the person in the Anonymous video begins to discuss some sort of FBI documents that are apparently unclassified, just sitting there on the website. The video claims that the documents suggest that we've not only been visited by aliens from space, but also beings from other dimensions. The video does explain that the document didn't originate from within the FBI, but rather from a university department head, but that the FBI treated the document with the utmost importance, which is certainly interesting. It's also very important to note, however, that this document was sent in 1947. I'm not sure if that makes the claims more or less likely or credible, but the timing of it definitely seems important, at least to me. While this is one of those things that you have to draw your own conclusions from, in the video it is mentioned that while we are arguing whether or not supposed UFO or alien sightings have really taken place here on Earth or in space, there are real instances of extraterrestrial beings visiting us, but we're just too focused on the debate to open our eyes and see for ourselves. In our number 7 spot today we have esoteric matters. After the discussion of the FBI documents, there is a claim that these beings that have apparently been visiting us are coming not from a planet as we think of it, but rather some sort of etheric planet that interpenetrates with our own, but that we are unable to perceive. Apparently, if you're a student of esoteric matters, these concepts will make a lot more sense to you, or so this Anonymous video claims. Apparently, these alien beings are able to make a conscious decision to enter our plane, and in that same respect, they're also to make a decision to disappear from our view. Apparently they're visiting us as they are thinking about settling here on our plane, and that they are coming here peacefully. During these visits, they are also said to have technology that would destroy any sort of attack made on them, so it is advised that if they do make themselves visible to us, we do not attack or make them feel threatened. I'm not so sure about this one, but at the end of the day, I am certainly no student of esoteric matters, so maybe it's just something that my brain cannot comprehend with the knowledge I currently have. In our number 6 spot today, we have this UFO footage. This UFO footage is coming from another anonymous video which claims that real UFO footage is always censored and that this video has been previously censored, but they were here to expose the truth. It is unclear where this UFO video was taken, and at the end of the day, I'm no expert in debunking these things, so it's tough to say whether or not it's real, but let's all just take a look and you can judge for yourselves. I know that wasn't the most exciting video, but what do we think aliens are going to be doing if they really are visiting us? What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this video is really showing some sort of UFO? And if you do you think it's aliens or just some sort of secret project that we aren't privy to? In our number 5 spot today, we have Perseverance. A point that was made in the video is something that we are actually now watching happen in real time, and that is the mission to Mars for the Perseverance rover that is currently there digging around in the soil. The video stated that Mars may hold signs of an ancient environment that may have been favorable to microbial life. Well, that is exactly true, and the reason the rover is there at all. The Perseverance rover launched from Earth on July 30th, 2020 and made an incredible and successful landing on Mars on February 18th, 2021. While the rover has provided us with some incredible high-definition photos of the red planet which truly are incredible to look at, its main objective is to dig around and search for ancient signs of life, collecting rock and soil samples for a possible return to Earth for further research. While Mars' thin atmosphere is unable to shield the planet from the high amounts of radiation coming from space now, it is thought that the atmosphere did once act as a better shield, and that the environment of Mars may have once been a great host for life, which is exactly why this mission is so important. While when the anonymous video was first released, we were still a ways away from the Perseverance mission taking place, it's really cool to see how it has come to fruition, and it's exciting to see the new photos and discoveries that are made each day. In our number 4 spot today, we have UFO footage Part 2. We have to include just one more video of what is claimed to be proof of aliens visiting us on Earth before we get back into the more science-y top 3 points. This is another video that was uploaded by a member of Anonymous, and it comes from 2017. The video features a dark sky, but it shows what looks like some sort of aircraft with a few flashing lights, and it seems like it is able to basically just hover there. Not long after the video starts, another mysterious UFO seemingly joins the first one, and the two are just seen floating there. What do you guys think these could be? I obviously don't know what an alien aircraft would look like, so it's tough to say if this is a realistic example or not. All I know is that if this isn't someone playing a trick and they really saw this in the sky, I have no other possible explanations of what it could be. In our number 3 spot today, we have TRAPPIST-1. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far. One of the things Anonymous mentioned in the video was a nearby star called TRAPPIST-1. The video didn't go into too much detail about this, but I'm here to do that now so we can all know what they were talking about. While TRAPPIST-1 is a star, the revelation that the video spoke about was that this star has an entire solar system of Earth-like planets. This discovery first came in 2017, and upon further research, in 2018 it was revealed that some of the planets just may harbor even more water than Earth does. Some of the planets are a little too close to the star, so the water is more atmospheric water vapor. The ones in the middle have liquid water, like us, and the furthest ones have ice. TRAPPIST-1 is now the most thoroughly known planetary system apart from ours, which is kinda cool. While the Anonymous video made it seem like there was a full-blown advanced alien civilization living in this solar system, there still might be potential for some form of microbial life that we just haven't quite found yet. And that is very cool. In our number 2 spot today, we have Enceladus. If you had heard of Enceladus before the Anonymous video, there's a good chance you knew it is basically an icy snowball floating around in space, or perhaps you simply knew it as a small moon of Saturn with a diameter of 502 kilometers, but as it turns out, this small moon might hold some pretty amazing potential. It was discovered that this moon has hydrothermal processes going on underneath its crust. To us non-scientists, that means next to nothing, but what if I said that means that it just might have all of the requirements for life, and that it is becoming a greater possibility that we might find microbial life there. Basically, this moon has an icy shell for a surface and then a rocky interior, but between those two layers is a warm ocean, and this ocean is where scientists think the life is most likely to be. This discovery came almost accidentally when the Cassini orbiter arrived to Saturn in 2005, and it found water plumes shooting out of the cracks in the surface of the moon, which made scientists realize that it just may be geologically active. Through more research and by flying the orbiter through the water, by the time 2015 rolled around, scientists knew that it was holding all of the keys to life. While this little moon was never the original focus of research, it quickly took over with its incredibly exciting potential. In our number 1 spot today we have Europa. We've got another moon to talk about that was mentioned in the video that also just might be holding the keys to us finding alien life, but this time we're taking it over to Jupiter and its icy moon Europa. Europa has been a point of interest for a while after NASA's Galileo Jupiter probe in the 1990s revealed an unusually warm spot in Europa's cold surface. In March of 2014, the Hubble telescope detected what scientists thought might be a plume of water vapor, but the caution turned to cautious excitement and optimism in February of 2016 when the telescope caught another, much larger plume in the same spot. This has led to the creation of the Europa Clipper mission. While this mission doesn't yet have a set date, it will see an orbiter flying to Europa to fly through these plumes in an attempt to see what they are made out of, similar to the one we just talked about, to see if it really is holding the key to life, or maybe even life itself. One of the scientists on the Clipper mission, Robert Pappalardo, explained that if there is life on Europa, it almost certainly was completely independent from the origin of life on Earth. That would mean the origin of life must be pretty easy throughout the galaxy and beyond.
Number 10. A bunch of paintings. Look, I might get into trouble for this, either from you or from my own family, but hey, I'm just saying what the internet says. We're talking about aliens here, so let's dabble in some speculation, shall we? Art imitates life, or so the saying goes, which is why some believe, based on depictions of Christ, that he was visited by aliens, or even maybe was one, I don't know! There, I said it. The examples I'm going to talk about are the Baptism of Christ, painted in the 1700s, and the Madonna and Saint Giovannino. The Baptism of Christ by Ert de Gelder literally shows the image of a flying saucer sending beams or lasers of light shining down on baby Jesus. Doesn't look like a sun if you ask me. Then the painting of the Madonna I mentioned, painted by Domenico Ghirlandaio 200 years earlier, literally has a flying saucer in the background. There's even a shepherd taking a minute off in the corner just like, ooh, what's that? What is it supposed to mean? And why does this image keep turning up? Because it's gonna keep showing up in the other ones we mentioned, so let's keep going. Number 9. The spaceship panel in Seti. This is one of the weirdest series of hieroglyphic panels ever discovered. In the Temple of Seti in Abydos, Egypt, there is a panel that depicts images that look all too familiar. While some of them are a little more ambiguous, the image of a helicopter and what looked like cars the Jetsons would have driven really stand out. This caused a lot of pseudo-archaeologists to freak out because they finally had proof that the ancient Egyptians had encountered advanced technology. But more legit archaeologists continue to debunk this theory by saying that the drawings were actually a result of edited carvings. The translation even means, "He who protects Egypt and overthrows the foreign countries." I think the jury is still out on this one, to be honest. What do you guys think? Number 8. The Vatican's secret archives. Okay, I could have picked one or two, but all of it, just all of it, we just don't know what's in there. I'm putting the Vatican secret archives on this list because there is for sure evidence in that library that asks a lot of questions, or maybe even answers some. You can actually get access to them, it just takes, I don't know, the 12 trials of Hercules to get approved. Then you have to fly to Rome and go through each page by hand. There are thousands of historical documents with secrets the Vatican kept hidden from prying eyes. For example, in the 17th century, Pope Paul V ordered a select collection of documents to be sealed from the public until 1881. Researchers believe that there are documents so explosive that they threaten the doctrine of the Catholic Church. They may even contain information on messages that Giordano Bruno, we will get to him in a minute, received from extraterrestrials. The Vatican archives also contain secrets pertaining to the Fatima mystery, which brings us to the Fatima mystery. In 1917, 3 children apparently saw an apparition of the Virgin Mary in a field. Their vision prompted 70,000 people to visit the same sheep pasture and stated that they saw a spinning silver disc in the sky. The children apparently received a message from the specter that said, "We are here, we have been since thousands of years ago, and that they will return again." This entire story went to the Vatican, but apparently they censored the messages. The children received 3 messages, but the Pope refused to release the 3rd and final one, which apparently mentions the existence of extraterrestrial life. Why would they censor such a message? Can one believe in both the existence of a higher being and alien life? Apparently the Vatican doesn't think so, though we will never know until the day we finally get a hand on those documents. Giordano Bruno. Giordano Bruno was a bit of an enigma. His radical ideas and futuristic thinking have many people today wondering if he's actually a time traveler or an alien. We don't know. Bruno was born in 1548 and lived until the year 1600 and was considered one of the most adventurous thinkers of the Renaissance. I know that's not ancient, but it's old, okay? So there. I can't help but talk about it, so thank you for indulging me. Stemming from Copernicus's heliocentric theory, Bruno believed in the new philosophy. It disproved Aristotelian natural philosophy and supported the idea that the universe was infinite, animate, and had loads of solar systems like our own. What's even weirder is that Bruno even foretold theories like the many worlds hypothesis hundreds of years before quantum mechanics was even considered a thing. He even theorized about atoms and molecules. Needless to say, his radical ideas weren't welcomed by the church, especially since most of his theories were correct. Like they are, a lot of them are. No wonder people think he's a time traveler. How on earth did these ideas even get into his head? Number 5. Rock paintings in India. Archaeologists were stunned when they came across ancient rock carvings dating over 10,000 years old in a cave in Raipur. What made their jaws drop to the floor? The stark possibility that these drawings depict the visitation of ancient aliens and UFOs. NASA and the ISRO, aka the Indian Space Research Center, are trying to learn more about their origins, of course. Due diligence is key when it comes to claims like these. But upon first glance, these beings look as though they are humanoid creatures wearing spacesuits. Beliefs in the surrounding village vary, but many people believe that they are a depiction of the Rohilla people. The Rohilla people, or the small-sized ones, were people who allegedly used to land from the sky in round-shaped flying objects and steal 2 people from the village, and they'd never return. Number 4. The Antikythera mechanism. The Antikythera mechanism is one of the most mysterious ancient discoveries of all time. Found 150 feet below the surface at the Aegean Sea, divers discovered a shipwreck. During the excavation, scientists discovered one of the oldest recorded computers, dating back to 7th century BC. It was determined to be a kind of analog computer used to predict astronomical events. According to author David Childress, for scientists, this finding was equivalent to finding a jet plane in King Tut's tomb. It changed how they perceived ancient history. Due to its stark complexity, alien enthusiasts believe that this technology must have been passed down from superior beings. So, aliens. The device was replicated in order to unravel the mystery, and even more shockingly, the device could calculate the position and running time of each planet. How could a pre-epoch civilization be able to create such a device without the use of sophisticated astronomical tools? You're thinking it, I'm just saying it. Aliens. Bam. Before we uncover our top 3, remember, if you like this video, do us a favor, smash that like button, punch it, poke it, boop it, whatever you want to do, and subscribe to stay up to date. It really helps us out, and we love you for it. Now for our top 3. The moving statues of Rhodes. So this actually relates to the one I just talked about. So this is cool, I'm getting 2 points in 1. This relates actually to the Antikythera mechanisms, as researchers believe that the ship it was found on originates from Rhodes. Move over, Atlantis! According to some, the island of Rhodes contains some of the most advanced technology of the time. Apparently the statues would suddenly just come to life, which implies that they developed some kind of machinery over 2,000 years ago, around 1500 years too soon for any kind of robotics. Legend says that the people earned the technology from the gods, though what they could have considered gods may have been something extraterrestrial in nature. Number 2, an iron dagger. When archaeologists began excavating King Tut's tomb, it was not surprising to find many elaborate and delicate objects, but one artifact stands out from the rest: an iron dagger, delicately laid in gold with a beautiful golden sheath. Iron is a very commonplace material today. In fact, not a day goes by where we don't come in contact with it at some point. But at the time this dagger was made, the ancient Egyptians were 200 years away from the Iron Age. Iron was incredibly rare. Then they discovered ancient hieroglyphs alluding to the dagger being given to them from the heavens. Now you see where I'm going with this. The composition of the dagger was tested and they found iron, but also included nickel and cobalt, in exactly the combination that is found in meteorites. The riddle now makes sense, as the iron came from space, but where did it land? Archaeologists continue to theorize its location, though the jury is still out. So how else could they have gotten it? And last but not least, geoglyphs. Geoglyphs are massive versions of petroglyphs, which are small drawings carved into the earth and rock. They appear all over the world in every culture. The most famous example of geoglyphs are the Nazca lines in Peru, which we've talked about on this channel before. If you find the video, post it down below to help each other out. The Nazca lines are the most popular due to the sheer size of them and variety, and many believe they hint at alien life. One of them is literally called the astronaut because that's exactly what it looks like. But to give you some more examples, there is the massive Uffington white horse found in Britain dating back to 11,000 BC, the works of the old men discovered in Jordan in the 1900s. I could go on, they're everywhere. Maybe we should do a video. Let me know if you want to. In most cases, the lines are so precise and clear that many wonder how these ancient civilizations constructed these designs when we only discovered their existence when we learned how to fly, or fly in airplanes, that is. One answer seems to make the most sense. They needed somebody above being like, move there, carve there, that one needs a little more. Aliens. Duh. The biggest question I have stemming from this list revolves around the images that keep turning up all throughout history. Why flying saucers? Where did that image come from if not from spaceships in the sky? Why, when we see pre-epoch drawings on caves or devices beyond our understanding, does something inside us suspect it came from somewhere else?
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have the New Jersey UFO. This UFO sighting took place in 2001 just above the New Jersey Turnpike. On July 14th, 2001, just after midnight, for around 15 minutes, motorists driving down the highway stopped to stare at the sky to witness what no one could believe. There were strange orange and yellow lights in a V formation just above the Arthur Kill waterway. There were a ton of witnesses who were all extremely confused and shocked as to what they were seeing. Air traffic controllers initially denied that there were any flying objects that could have caused the mysterious lights, but a group called the New York Strange Phenomena investigators claimed that they received radar data that night that could corroborate all of the stories that the witnesses were telling. It may not have been aliens, but it certainly was some sort of unidentified flying object that no one had ever seen before, and there were people from all walks of life witnessing it together. In our number 9 spot today, we have habitable planets. Before I dive into this one, guys, please don't forget to hit the thumbs up button if you're enjoying the video so far, because it really helps us out. So, we once were on a journey to start off by figuring out which planets were actually habitable. And by that I mean which planets were rocky and which were orbiting a star within what is called the Goldilocks zone and had water, and that they weren't too hot or too cold so that water could be in liquid form. It just seems like the absolute basics needed in order to sustain life. Well, now, after more years of research, it is thought that actually about 1 in every 5 or 6 planets is actually a planet that could potentially sustain life. It is thought that there is roughly about 1 exoplanet for every star in our galaxy. That's a lot of planets, which means that's a lot of planets that could potentially have life. There certainly are planets that researchers believe are the most likely, but that doesn't mean that they are the only ones that should be looked into. Basically, what I'm saying is that there are, at the very least, millions of planets that could be hosting some form of life, whether it's an intelligent civilization or just single-cell organisms that have the potential to evolve over millions of years, just like us. Any kind of life would be a huge and exciting win for the science community, so it's just a reminder to us to keep searching because we never know what we're going to find. In our number 8 spot today, we have the Stephenville UFO. In January of 2008, in the small town of Stephenville, Texas, a bunch of residents all saw something in the sky that they couldn't believe. In the beginning, it appeared to be white lights in the sky that were first in a single arc, but then they quickly moved to form 2 parallel lines. It was estimated that the lights were spanning about a mile long and half a mile wide, but the craziest part is that it was flying at 3,000 miles per hour, which is similar to the speed of a fighter jet, but there was no sound reported at all. The government chalked this sighting up to the US Air Force flight operation, but many of the residents who saw this event on that day were absolutely not convinced and truly felt like they were lied to. Some even explained that what they saw was too technologically advanced for human civilization. I want you guys to let me know in the comments if you believe the story that the government told, or if you trust the instincts of the people in Stephenville who saw that incident that day. In our number 7 spot today, we have time. This one is basically just the theory that we may not have found aliens yet because we haven't spent enough time looking for them. Realistically, it's been about half a century since we really gained the technological advancements that have allowed us to really look for them. In terms of the universe, that is the smallest little blink of an eye. Things take time, and it's incredibly possible that we just haven't had enough of it yet. Every year, as more money gets put into things like that, it allows incredibly smart and brilliant people the opportunity to create things that unbelievably make space more and more accessible to us. The more accessible it is, the more we will be able to discover. So maybe this is just a lesson in patience for all of us. If aliens do exist, I'm sure we'll find them at some point. Hopefully sooner rather than later, because I personally would like to meet an alien, but since I'm not an astronaut, I might have to wait a little longer than I'd like to. In our number 6 spot today, we have this unexplained UFO. In 2017, after the existence of the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program became more well known, a video was released of an encounter between an FA-18 Super Hornet and some sort of unidentified flying object. There weren't a ton of details released about exactly what happened during this encounter, but using a Raytheon Advanced Targeting forward-looking infrared pod, they were able to capture an extremely fast-moving white oval that was around 45 feet long. The oval had no wings and didn't appear to have any kind of exhaust either. They were tracking the UFO at an altitude of 25,000 feet just above the Atlantic Ocean, and then they were shocked as the craft rotated on its axis and flew away. There was no explanation released with the footage because it truly is unbelievable and currently unexplainable. In our number 5 spot today, we have They May Already Be Here. Okay, this one is for my conspiracy theorists out there. This is just the theory that maybe we can't find aliens because they've already found us and are actually walking among us, and we just don't know. I'm not quite sure the logistics of this one because I am definitely a human, and no alien who's posing as a human has ever revealed themselves to me personally, but I can't speak for everyone. It's possible that if this is true, aliens might be waiting for the right time to let us know that they've been walking around with us, or there may already be some lucky people out there who already know. I know a lot of us would be quite frightened of aliens if we did find concrete proof of their existence, and it might be likely that they're afraid of us as well. And if they are more intelligent than us and were able to find us first, they might just be testing out the waters to see what humans really think of them before letting us in on their secrets. So if you meet a stranger who starts asking you a bunch of questions about aliens, you might want to think twice next time. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Chicago UFO. This UFO sighting comes from November 7th, 2006 and was at the O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. Flight 446 was getting ready to head to North Carolina when an employee from United Airlines that was on the tarmac noticed a dark gray metallic aircraft hovering over one of the gates. After this, 11 other employees and even a few people who didn't work there saw this gray saucer floating around 4:15 p.m. The people who saw it explained that it hovered above the gate for around 5 minutes before it just shot itself upwards and broke through the clouds, leaving a hole where you could see the blue sky. The strangest thing, however, is that this flying saucer did not show up on the radar, so the Federal Aviation Administration just called it a weather phenomena and would not investigate it, despite there being around 15 witnesses who all saw the same thing. This story, however, became the most read story on the Chicago Tribune's website and even went international because it certainly is very interesting. In our number 3 spot today, we have light shifts. In the later half of 2015, a Penn State astronomer named Jason Wright explained that there were pretty erratic and spontaneous shifts in the light that was coming from a newly discovered star. This star sits about 1,280 light years away from us on Earth, and these shifts were very similar to as if something was passing in front of our view of the star briefly before passing right through. Scientists weren't able to connect this to any exoplanets or anything like that, which we could understand, and this is what led Jason to quite an interesting theory. He stated that it is possible that the shifts are caused by massive objects passing in front of the star in a kind of orbit, like an array of massive satellites or a similar kind of structure, like the type of thing that would be produced by an intelligent and civilized life form. Again, like many things, it's just a theory, but a very compelling one at that. In our number 2 spot today, we have the USS Princeton UFO. This UFO sighting comes from 2004. On November 14th of that year, the USS Princeton noticed an unknown aircraft of some sort that was about 100 miles off of the coast of San Diego. For 2 weeks prior to this, the crew had been tracking a strange flying object, and this one would start out at around 80,000 feet before extremely quickly dropping to hover right above the Pacific Ocean. Black Aces Commander David Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Jim Slate of Strike Fighter Squadron 41 went over in 2 fighter jets in order to kind of scope out the situation, and when they arrived, they saw what at first appeared to be churning water while there was an oval shape just below the surface. After this, a white oval shaped object appeared above the water, but it had no markings on it. Like no windows, nothing that would indicate an engine, no wings, and the infrared monitors on the jets didn't pick up any sort of exhaust. The commander and lieutenant commander tried to intercept this strange aircraft, but it very quickly flew away and reappeared on the monitor 60 miles away. Like when I say quickly, I mean it was moving at 3 times the speed of sound and over twice the speed of fighter jets. So faster than any kind of technology we currently have. We still don't know exactly what this was, but I'm sure a lot of us are thinking the same thing. In our number 1 spot today, we have radio signals. Basically, we're getting radio signals from somewhere, but we just aren't quite sure what exactly is going on there. It started in 2007 when we began getting what are called fast radio bursts, and they are a totally mysterious phenomena to scientists. These bursts are only a few milliseconds long, but they emit more energy than the sun does in 24 hours, which is just a statement that my brain struggles to comprehend. All of this is already super cool and very interesting, but here's an even crazier thing about them. The main thing we know about these bursts is that they are coming from outside of the Milky Way. They're coming from outside of our own galaxy. Space is the coolest and most unbelievable thing. This obviously had led a lot of experts to believe that it could be coming from an advanced civilization that is quite far away, and they may be trying to contact us, but we just don't have the technology to interpret the signals. Maybe one day scientists will figure out a way to accept whatever message it is they're trying to send, or maybe one day we'll get a visit from them and they'll be mad at us for not answering their messages. Either way, it's all very cool and very interesting.
Number 10, the cherubim. I've talked about cherubim in a previous video and I just have to bring them up again. How does something so terrifying start being depicted as something so cute? When you think of a cherub, you obviously think back on all the times you've seen babies drawn in frescoes in museums and churches, but considering the original description of them, they had to be aliens. They came from the sky, and well, they had 4 wings, 4 heads, one made up of an ox, one a lion, one a man, and one an eagle. So you say? So what? They had an active imagination. But okay, fine. Except for the fact that the cherubim also traveled on some kind of flying, multi-wheeled metallic ship. And did I mention they came from the sky? So, need I say more? Number 9, Jacob's Ladder. The Bible survives off of continued attempts at interpretation, and the story of Jacob's Ladder is no exception. The tale goes that Jacob was on his way to Haran and had stopped for a rest. While he slept, he had a pretty trippy dream. He dreamt that angels were ascending and descending upon a stairway to heaven that was resting on the earth. Jacob saw the Lord in the heavens above the ladder, and the Lord told him to go in every direction spreading the word, which kind of sounds like a ladder from a spaceship touched down and the aliens were like, hey, tell people so we can, I don't know, have dinner or something. Like, we might be able to have a last supper before we leave. Sorry, what? Was it just a fever dream, or did Jacob accidentally wake up during a space invasion. Number 8. Ezekiel 1:128. While the prophet was being held captive at Babylon in 594 BCE, Ezekiel, like the bread, had an intense vision that has sparked a lot of discourse surrounding a potential alien visitation. Firstly, it involves the cherubim, which, as I mentioned, had to be some sort of extraterrestrial, but there is an allusion to, well, a spacecraft. Here is the actual passage. As I looked, behold, a stormy wind came out of the north, and a great cloud with brightness around it, and fire flashing forth continually, and in the midst of the fire, as it were, gleaming metal, and from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had a human likeness, unquote. So, gleaming metal, human likeness. Everyone's thinking it, I'm just saying it. Aliens. Also, if you're gonna give me hate in the comments for, like, I don't know, blasphemy, you clicked on this video, you knew what it was gonna be about. Just saying. Number 7. The ascension of Elijah. A lot has changed since the Bible was first written. We've learned a lot since the Bible was first created. One, that the earth is not flat, that we actually orbit around the sun, that the stars are actually giant balls of gas constantly combusting, and that there is a strong possibility that life exists out there in the universe. So now, when modern onlookers take a look at the tales from the Bible, some new ideas are coming to the surface. For instance, what if the ascension of Elijah was actually an early alien abduction? The Bible describes that he was taken up by the Lord in a chariot of fire. The chariot of fire is the main point we are focusing on here. Given how many modern UFO sightings talk about bright lights moving in the sky, could this chariot have been a UFO? An unknown, glowing, flying object that must have boggled the minds of us muggles on the ground? Maybe the fire was the engine shooting away. Now that's a revelation. Speaking of revelations, let's talk about Revelation 9:7-11. The flying alien locusts that are foretold to destroy the earth, and I quote, "The locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. On their heads they wore something like crowns of gold, and their faces resembled human faces. Their hair was like women's hair, and their teeth were like lions' teeth. They had breastplates like breastplates. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was like the thundering of many horses and chariots rushing into battle. They had tails with stingers like scorpions, and in their tails they had the power to torment people for 5 months." Unquote. Flying alien horse locusts? Some theorists say that this particular passage describes war machines of the future, that perhaps whoever visited them had armored planes that could only be compared to what people then already knew. Number 5. The flying scroll. Here we have yet another potentially misinterpreted image. I wonder if the ancients played the same game we play with clouds. You know, like, that's a scroll, that's the Lord, that's an angel. In the opening verses of Zechariah, they describe a flying object that's, and I quote, "The length thereof is 20 cubits and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits, unquote, and continues to be interpreted as a flying scroll or roll. Though it's a pretty general description, many modern interpretations based on UFO sightings wonder if it was similar to a saucer, or perhaps cigar-shaped like others that have been seen in the news. Number 4. The star above the manger. Now back to my reference to the most beautiful Christmas song ever, "A Spaceman Came Traveling" by Christopher. This is kind of how I picture the Christmas star story. That a spaceman traveled for light years, suddenly touching down on Earth to the awe of the people. His ship was a massive light in the sky, which I wonder. For the 3 wise men to find little baby Jesus at the manger, the story goes that they followed the brightest star in the sky. But what if it wasn't that? What if it was an alien ship hovering over that spot, leading them towards the little manger? There is one such man, a UFO enthusiast named Richard Lawrence, who believes this was the case, and even goes a step further, that Jesus was an alien himself. When greeted with skepticism, Lawrence has stated, and I quote, "I wouldn't call him an alien. I'd call him a great cosmic intelligence. But yes, alien, if you'd like." Unquote. Number 3. Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah is probably one of the more well-known Bible stories. It takes place in Genesis 19. You know, the 2 most sinful cities to ever exist. So sinful that God decided to level them to dust. Though he did warn Lot and his family to escape, but he did say that if they look back, they will turn into salt, which is exactly what happened to Lot's wife when she glanced back. In verse 28, Abraham describes the site of the ruined city. Unquote. He looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land like smoke from a furnace. Unquote. kind of reminiscent of an explosion, perhaps something as large as a nuclear explosion. Alien enthusiasts believe that this actually may have been exactly that, a nuclear explosion sent by aliens, or that they introduced them to the technology. Even during the Crusades, where the two cities were supposed to have been, travelers noted that nothing grew there. Number 2, the giants. The Watchers were described as a group of angels that served as the eyes of God, but they grew lustful and decided to take human wives. One of the verses in Genesis 6 describes this, quote, "When man began to multiply on the surface of the land and daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw that the daughters of man were attractive, and they took as their wives any they chose." Unquote. These hybrid angel children were described as massive, bloodthirsty giants called the Nephilim, which Uriel later drowned the world. He literally, Noah's Ark, that whole thing. Yeah. Now what this could be was alien intervention with the humans living on Earth to see if they could breed, and it went horribly wrong. So the aliens destroyed them so they could start a clean slate. Whether you believe it or not, it is a theory ancient astronaut theorists cite when trying to prove aliens interacted with humans. And last but not least, the archives. The Bible that is in circulation today is one of many copies and interpretations. It is morphed between, put things in, taken things out over thousands of years. And a lot of the original information is hidden in the Vatican archives. There are thousands of historical documents kept hidden from prying eyes in the Vatican, and for some reason, Pope Paul V ordered a certain section of documents to be locked up till 1881. Some believe the information regards the enigmatic Giordano Bruno, believed to have met or was an alien, and even more suspicious secrets pertaining to the Fatima mystery. In 1917, 3 children apparently saw an apparition of the Virgin Mary in a field. Their vision prompted 70,000 people to visit the same sheep pasture and stated that they saw a spinning silver disc in the sky. The children apparently received a message from the specter that said, and I quote, "We are here, we have been since thousands of years ago, and that they will return again," unquote. The Vatican recorded these messages, but to this day they remain censored and locked away. The 3 messages the children received apparently contain evidence of alien life. If they are so afraid of those messages getting out, does it mean whatever they said could change what we know of the scripture? Who knows?
That's right, starting us off at number 10, and probably the most obvious one, is the pyramids. Just outside of Cairo in Giza, you will find some of Earth's most amazing and famous pyramids. They were apparently built more than 4,500 years ago and are actually monumental tombs of ancient queens and pharaohs. But how did human beings build these massive structures with limited technology? Answer? Maybe they didn't. Maybe the aliens did. The Great Pyramid is made up of millions of precisely hewn stones, and they weigh at least 2 tons each. This, along with the idea that 3 of the Great Pyramids line up with Orion's belt in the night sky, lead many to believe that the pyramids are actually of alien creation. Now, scientists and historians actually have a pretty good idea of how thousands of human hands could have helped create these magnificent structures, but nothing has been set in stone. So, did the aliens build the pyramids, or did we just not give the ancient Egyptians enough credit? Who knows?
In our 9th spot today, we have the tombs. Now, this one is more on the crazier side. The theory comes from the show Ancient Aliens, which is questionable but also really addicting. Anyways, ancient astronaut theorists believe that the ancient Egyptian tombs weren't just built for burial purposes. No, they were actually instructed by the aliens on how to create these tombs. If you look at old texts from back then, they talk about how they received knowledge to build tombs from the gods. Now, it's believed that the gods they worshipped were actually aliens, so there's that. Aliens told them how to build the tombs, but why? Well, they believe that this is because the tombs were a way for the Egyptians to get to the afterlife and reunite with extraterrestrials. Egyptians believed that the tombs were gateways to the afterlife. That's why they put so much time and detail into them, and they were so lavish and intricate. In the end, they would use the tomb to reunite with aliens. In fact, ancient astronaut theorists believe that our physical life is not our only life, but it's actually preparing us for another life after this one that's even greater and with extraterrestrial beings.
Coming in at number 8, we have the Abydos hieroglyphics. Now this is either a sign of time travel, or it's a sign of aliens, or maybe it's even a sign of time traveling aliens. On an Egyptian temple wall in Abydos, there are hieroglyphics of what appear to be futuristic aircraft, such as a helicopter and a spaceship. This specific piece is dated to be from 3,000 years ago, and I think it's pretty safe to say that there were no aircrafts that were human-made at that point. Dr. Ruth Hover and her husband were the ones to discover these amazing hieroglyphics, and they were shocked that they not only discovered them, but they also discovered them behind a wall panel that they had to break down in order to reveal the entire piece. Now, why was it hidden? Who's hiding it? Is it the aliens or is it our human government official friends who are doing their best to conceal the secret? All we know for sure is that these markings that are there are 3,000 years old and no human at that time had access to such vehicles. That we know of.
Moving on to number 7, we have the Sphinx. So Dewey already talked about how everyone believes about the pyramids being made by aliens. Well, what about the Sphinx? Don't worry, they believe the Sphinx was created by aliens as well. I mean, how is it that they managed to create such a tall and intricate structure when they didn't have any modern day building equipment? It's quite bizarre. But that's not even the weirdest part. Back in 2018, satellite photos on Mars revealed something really freaking freaky. It appeared as if there was a Sphinx similar to the one in Egypt on Mars. That's right, you heard me correctly. The rock formation that was seen in the images eerily resembled the 200-foot tall Sphinx statue. So could it be that aliens built the one on Mars and the one in Egypt? Dun, dun, dun.
Coming in at our number 6 spot, we have hieroglyphics on Mars. Okay, so this one isn't exactly found in Egypt, but it does have a tie to Egypt. NASA recently retrieved tons of new photos from the red planet Mars taken by its Curiosity rover. When the pictures came back, many noticed these awfully strange markings on the side of a rock. The markings being rather similar to the ancient hieroglyphics that are found in Egypt. According to many alien researchers and conspiracy theorists, this is proof that the aliens had been on Earth, especially in ancient Egypt, and that they also may have come from Mars. But scientists aren't exactly on board with this theory yet. Many believe the photo to be manipulated into having the markings on the stone, and others just think that they could be strange markings that, just aren't explainable. In the end, the only thing close to life on Mars that has been found so far is water below the planet's surface. So while that gives the possibility and opportunity for life, we still don't have any hard proof. But if these markings did turn out to be real, no one would give a heck about Martian water.
We are now at our 5th and halfway mark with the sun god Aten. Back in the day, ancient Egyptians were known as polytheistic, meaning they believed in multiple gods. That was until one day Pharaoh Akhenaten was literally like, nah, we only need to worship one god and one god only. And that was the sun god. Which makes us wonder, why would Akhenaten come out of nowhere and declare this? What changed his mind? What made him believe that the sun god was the only god out there? Well, the answer might lie in the depiction of that god. Aten is depicted as a disc in the sky. Isn't that strange? What else do we know that is a disc that flies through the sky? UFOs/aliens and their spacecrafts. So theory goes that Akhenaten was greeted by this flying saucer one night and his entire view about gods changed. The aliens might have given him a message telling him that they are the only god out there and they should bow down to them. So he did as he was told to do and got everyone to worship this flying disc, aka the aliens.
Coming in at our number 4 spot, we have an Egyptian pictograph of a caped alien. This pictograph from 400 BCE pictures a man offering up some type of large fowl to what seems to be a caped alien. No one has been able to prove exactly what is being depicted here or why, but one thing to pay close attention to is the eyes. Don't those eyes look like the stereotypical ones we know from all of our alien movies, stories, and media? Yeah, they do. Without primary sources to tell us what exactly is going on here, this is a hard one not only to debunk, but even also to prove. I do really enjoy that it has the famous alien eyes though, because when I dive into the alien topic, I always try to have a healthy amount of skepticism, but I do also look for the common denominators, and those eyes are definitely common in pretty much any alien media out there. So, I don't know man, but it seems cool to me.
In our 3rd spot, we have Akhenaten's elongated skull. So I just finished talking about how Akhenaten might have been in contact with aliens, right? Well, turns out that he might have been an alien himself. People came to this conclusion after looking at depictions of him. So in all of his depictions, he is seen with an elongated face and head, a long neck, small ribs, and a protruding belly. While all the other pharaohs were drawn to look majestic and muscular. Why was he the only one depicted as so? This means that the carvings must have been an accurate representation of what he looked like. So people were like, wow, he has a lot of alien type characteristics, maybe he is one. Whereas others believe he suffered from a genetic disorder that caused his body to grow as so. But you decide what you want to believe.
And coming in at number 2, we have Elon Musk. If Elon Musk says it, then it must be true, right? Back in 2020, Elon Musk famously tweeted, Aliens built the pyramids, obvi, and this, needless to say, caused a huge stir. Shortly after the tweet was sent out, Egypt's Minister of International Cooperation responded to Musk's tweet with an invitation to actually visit the pyramids and the tombs so that they could prove to him that the ancient Egyptians did indeed build them with no help from our alien friends. Many others went on to reply to Elon Musk's tweet, including Dr. Zahi Hawass and Dr. Sarah Parcak, and I don't think they took it as lighthearted as the minister did. Parcak replied with, "Egyptologist here, Elon, who works on a royal pyramid site. They did not. Ancient Egyptians did. Plus we have the papyrus that are like live tweets of pyramid construction at Giza. Happy to share resources so you can get yourself educated." Ooh, yeah, so while I think Elon is a very smart guy, I would actually have to be more inclined to listen to him after he takes them up on his trip to the pyramids. If he is still saying the same thing after that, then hey, you know what, maybe he's onto something. But until then, maybe just put away the phone there, Mr. Elon.
And in our number 1 spot today, we have King Tut's dagger. Upon excavating the tomb of King Tut, scientists discovered a long 34-centimeter dagger wrapped up with King Tut. It has since been given the name King Tut's dagger. How original. Now back in the day, they didn't have the capability to study the dagger without damaging it, so it wasn't touched until 1970. When an x-ray was done on the dagger, it was revealed that it was made out of some interesting compounds, primarily nickel and iron. Here's the interesting part. How could it have been composed of iron when his burial predated Egypt's Iron Age by nearly 2,000 years? So that right there is shocking. As a result of the iron and nickel composition, scientists have declared that it was made from extraterrestrial metal. Now, there are 2 theories here. One is that a meteorite crashed down and they used that to make the dagger. Theory 2 is that the dagger was made by aliens and dropped or left by them accidentally, or maybe even given to King Tut as a gift. Starting off this countdown, we have the Barrier Canyon pictographs. Located in the southwest, the Barrier Canyon is a remote area in Utah. There you will find amazing pictographs that date back to thousands of years ago. Here's the thing, people are like, bro, those pictures look an awful lot like aliens. Most of the figures displayed there are quite odd. They are around 8 feet tall and shaped like a human, but have no arms, legs, ears, or noses. They do, however, have big alien-like eyes. Some have been drawn with free-floating eyes, or wings, or with serpents around their hands or above their heads. Other paintings are of animals and humans, but the humans aren't drawn nearly as big as the 8-foot tall weird creatures. The paintings are said to have been done by mixing blood and clay and possibly urine as a binder. Upon analyzing them, they found hair from a paintbrush that dates back to 6750 BCE, meaning maybe people back then were in contact with these humanoid alien type creatures. I mean, they would have had to had a big impact on their life in order for them to have been painted. Moving on at number 9, we have the rock paintings. For years, archaeologists in Sharma, India have been baffled by these weird ancient rock paintings. The paintings are around 10,000 years old and they look like they depict aliens and UFOs. Archaeologist Junior Back said, and I quote, "The findings suggest that humans in prehistoric times may have seen or imagined beings from other planets." Some of the paintings show these weird alien-shaped figures with massive heads, whereas other drawings are of what appears to be UFO spaceships. In other pictures, these weird humanoid figures are wearing what appears to be spacesuits. In fact, locals in the village would worship the paintings and tell great stories about small people coming down from the sky in round-shaped flying objects, abducting people, and then never returning. So, were the prehistoric people just super creative, or were they actually greeted by these aliens? Moving on to number 8, we have Saint Wolfgang and the Devil. This painting was created in the 15th century by famous German Renaissance painter Michael Pacher. It was painted based on the legend about Saint Wolfgang tricking the devil into building a church. So yes, that green guy with the weird face on his ass is supposed to be the devil. But people are like, really? That's an alien. I mean, yes, I admit that this creature doesn't look like a traditional devil, but over the years the devil has been depicted in a number of different forms, including something like this. But no, a number of people strongly believe that it's not the devil he was in contact with, but it was aliens instead, and apparently aliens have faces on their bums. Moving on at number 7, we have the Crucifixion of Jesus. Okay, This one is wild. Buckle your seatbelts. So take a look at this painting from 1350. It was created by an unknown artist for the Decani Monastery. The artist signed his name Serge, but there's no historical records of anyone with such name. So right off the bat, people are like, okay, so who created this piece? Especially because in the top right and left hand corners of the piece there are two UFOs with passengers inside. In the right corner, the pilot in the UFO seems to be looking all the way back at the craft behind him. Now I don't know about you, but no normal human being can do that with their neck unless they're an alien or an owl. On top of it all, this work would have had to been approved on the detail or else the whole piece would have been repainted. So someone saw this and was like, yep, that's accurate, looks good, meaning aliens were present during Jesus' crucifixion. Also, they didn't have spacecrafts back then, or any flying things. But those two people are certainly flying in something, alright, so what's the deal? Well, one explanation is that those two UFO things are supposed to represent the sun and the moon, or two divine beings watching over. But a lot of people are just like, no, they're aliens. In our sixth spot today we have the Madonna. Painted in the late 1400s, this is a beautiful painting of the Madonna with infant Jesus and St. John. But if you look in the background, there appears to be a weird spacecraft floating in the sky. In fact, it is emitting beams of light, and the man in the back with the dog is looking up at it with his mouth open like, what the heck is this? Like, he's in awe of it. Even the dog is looking up at it like, what the hell is going on here? This craft looks a lot like a UFO. I mean, come on, there's even light rays coming out of it, so what else could it be? Again, people argue saying that maybe it's an angel or some sort of holy entity looking down on her. But there's no wings or a body of an angel, and this wasn't the typical way to portray angels, so it seems quite odd and out of place to say the least. We're now at our fifth and halfway mark with Leonardo da Vinci's paintings. A lot of people think that Leonardo da Vinci was in contact with aliens and was trying to tell us through hiding secret messages in his paintings. First off, people thought that Leo was way ahead of his time. Like, he was drawing pictures of helicopters in 1493 before it was even a thing. He also talked about ships that could travel underwater, submarines. Like, he came up with a lot of modern day inventions somehow back then. So people were like, okay, he's either a time traveler or an alien, or he's in contact with aliens and they were telling him how to advance society. Now, here comes the freaky part. Someone mirrored and lightened his painting of St. John the Baptist, and it appears as if there's an alien face in there. It is truly quite freaky. It straight up looks like an alien from The Predator or something. Then you have his famous work of art, the Mona Lisa. Turns out if you do the exact same thing to this painting, you also see an alien's face. So, what do you think? Was Leo subtly trying to tell us something? If so, why would he make it so hard for us to find? Also, I want to know who went around like mirroring and lightening these images. Like, were they purposely looking for a coded message? Should we be doing that to all paintings or what? Moving on, at number 4 we have the glorification of the Eucharist. This is another religious painting that might include signs of alien life. So in this painting from the 17th century we see God and Jesus looking out over God's kingdom. But what's weird is that there is this weird round object between the two with antennas sticking out of it. It looks a lot like Russia's Sputnik satellite. Now, the sphere is the creation globe, like to represent Earth and the cosmos. But people argue that if that was so, then how come there's no stars? And how come it looks like it has almost a metallic reflection? And what about the antennas, okay? Some say that it's magic wands, but it can't be because they look like they retract, like antennas. I don't know about this one, okay? There's two theories. One, aliens provided them with such a device, or two, someone is a time traveler. I don't even know anymore. Coming in at number 3 we have No Chiri. This illustration is part of a UFO legend from the 1800s. The fact that back then they had stories talking about spacecrafts and extraterrestrials makes it seem like aliens are indeed real. This Japanese story talked about a sailor finding a weird floating craft in the ocean, which is what this picture depicts. According to the story, the craft was an object made from steel and glass, and was big enough to fit a small human inside. On top of that, they said inside of the craft was a small script that they couldn't decipher. Probably because it was like in an alien language, I don't know. But anyways, what are the odds that this story perfectly describes UFOs and drew them just like we picture them nowadays? In our second spot, we have the Paleolithic rock painting. This for sure is a painting of a UFO spaceship, and no one can tell me differently. Like, there's no way this isn't. Like, come on, as a kid, that's how I drew UFOs. What else is it meant to be if it's not an alien spacecraft? Anyways, this painting was found deep inside of a cave in Neo, France. It's dated back to 13,000 BC, which is insane because obviously they didn't have any flying devices back then, so what is this a picture of? Maybe they really did come across a UFO. And in our number one spot today, we have Dracula's UFO. Not gonna lie, this is another really freaking weird one. This is a 16th century painting of Dracula's castle, like the real life Dracula, aka Vlad the Impaler. While hovering right above the castle in the sky is what looks like a UFO spacecraft. Not only that, but in 2014, a tourist photographed a very similar UFO right above a building in the same area. Could it be that Vlad was actually an alien? Like, what if aliens need to feed off of humans to stay alive, and that's why Vlad did what he did? Because in reality, he was an alien, not a vampire. I don't know, man, this is all too weird.